Welcome to our Coach's Corner podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and I want to thank you for joining us as we turn up the heat by sharing our thoughts on health and fitness, along with some of our personal fitness experiences. Each episode, we'll be covering a wide variety of topics related to overall health and fitness with a no-fluff, real talk perspective.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. Today, we will be breaking down one of the most debatable macronutrients, carbohydrates. Let's learn about it. I'm your host, Dana, and I will also have our hosts, Eric and Amy, here with me in the studio.
Up?
Hey.
Today, we have a special guest. Angie Pita is known as our in-house yogi. She also has her master's in holistic nutrition. Angie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and as you guys know, we turn it over to Amy next, the queen of rapid-fire questions. Have at it, Amy.
All right, Angie, so I'm going to ask you, I got about 10 questions here, and we're going to go really quick. The first thing that pops into your head, just go for it. No ums, buts, whatever. I want to learn about Angie today. Are you ready?
Uh-oh. Yes.
They're not too hard. All right. Where were you born?
Venezuela.
Oh, what's your coffee order?
Ooh, just a regular almond milk latte.
Favorite color?
Turquoise.
Favorite animal?
Pigs.
What was the last trip you took?
Ooh. Miami for my wedding.
Oh, nice. Sweet or salty snacks?
Salty.
How many languages can you speak?
3.
What are they?
Portuguese, Spanish, and English.
Dang, girl. Do you have any pets?
Yes, my beautiful dog, Pavel.
What song are you currently listening to on repeat right now?
Pepas, very heavy reggaeton.
Nice, like it.
Nice. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Strawberry.
And describe yourself in one word.
Energetic.
Amen. Preach. So anybody that's listening that knows our Angie Pita chips knows that she has just the most dynamic energy and is so fun to be around. So we're happy to have you today.
Thank you.
Angie has her master's in holistic nutrition. So we're about to break down this debatable topic in carbohydrates. So where we want to start today, and we've started each episode as we're talking about macronutrients. Our last episode, we talked about protein. This episode, we're hitting the heavy hitter carbohydrates, and then we'll round out this series talking about fats. But today's carbohydrates, so we'll start what we always do. What is a carbohydrate, and how is it used within our body?
All right, so carbs people tend to be really scared of, but we're going to go real simple. A carbohydrate is a molecule within the body.
Okay.
And it's food. Yeah, it's one of the macronutrients, so you need all 3, carbohydrates being one of them. So I'm really happy and excited to talk about them more so we can debunk a lot of myths that a lot of people have.
There's a lot of myths.
Yeah.
Most say, like, just cut carbs and you'll be fine.
Or dumb questions from me.
Yeah,
So
like Eric's going to throw it in there. But, like, so we talked about what is a carbohydrate. Like, it's a molecule. It gives you energy. It's a piece of food, right? But, like, how is it used in the body? Like, what happens there?
All right, so carbohydrates are basically sugar molecules. So when your body digests the carb, it turns into a sugar, and that's how your cells use it up as energy. Without getting too in depth with it, every cell needs ATP, which is the energy, and the mitochondria specifically use the sugar from the carbs. So when your body breaks it down, that's how it gets to your entire system.
I feel like there's always in daily life, right? There's always like positive words and negative words. And it's really bad within a diet. And when I say diet, I don't mean like you're on a diet. I mean what you eat in your daily life. So there's really big keywords. And when we hear the word sugar, we automatically think, oh, negative. Mm-hmm. Like we think candy sugar, things like that. So when you say it turns to sugar, like my mind, and I know better, but like my mind is like, oh, that's going to give people the indication that it's bad because you just ate it, it turned to sugar. So can you talk about like why we actually need that in our daily life?
Yeah. So the sugar that we're talking about specifically, it ends up being energy for the central nervous system, which is literally everything.
Controls everything.
Controls absolutely everything in your body. So you're thinking about body temperature regulation, how you think, how your brain functions. So with that being said, yes, we have a negative connotation around carbs, but at the end of the day, we need them. So how can we relearn them, and how can we adapt our diets or our lifestyle to actually consume them in the best way and the optimal way to do that?
I think a lot stems from, just mainstream American diet.
I was going to say that you see everywhere people looking on the back, how much sugar does it have?
Yeah.
How much sugar does it have?
Well,
You
I
know?
mean, and even like it's so carb heavy because so much of American food is just processed food.
It's processed. And so it's like added sugars. Yes, the added sugars is what we want to avoid, but the carbs, the non-processed ones that we need them in our diet. We need energy, right? So it's like, yes, look at the label, but how can we be more intelligent with our choices?
And it's like you're right, you need them. Like, and carbs are your primary energy source. So when you strip that, be prepared to not feel too hot.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
You're not going to feel great. Like the energy you feel, let's say after you eat breakfast, if you eat like a good breakfast, a balanced approach breakfast. So let's, for example, take like 2 eggs. Let's make it really simple. 2 eggs and some oatmeal. Basic as can get. And maybe like,
Which is better than most.
and maybe some like avocado with your eggs. Literally, you have protein with the eggs, fats with the avocado, and carbs with the oatmeal. That's a really balanced approach. Say you eat that at like 9 a.m. The energy you're going to start to feel at 11 a.m. is like you're coasting.
Yep.
Because it's like
Solid.
so balanced, right? But like think about if you have a heavy... You're
Cereal.
like, okay, I did really good at breakfast. I'm going to splurge for lunch. I'm going to go out with my coworkers. And you have something that's like really processed, things like that. How do you feel at 2 o'clock?
Oh, that's
Oh
the
my
crash that everyone has. And that's why you reach for some free coffee or some coffee in general.
So like how good you feel at 11 is not because the caffeine kicked in. It's like your body's actually using the energy that it was given. And the first that it pulls from is carbs, correct?
Yes, the first thing that it pulls from is carbs. There's actually a more intelligent way to eat if we want to learn about that a little bit. You actually want to leave your carbs last so that your blood glucose, which we'll get into that just slightly in a little bit, but so that your blood glucose doesn't elevate. So you can actually eat your food in a different order. So you should eat your vegetables first, then your protein, and then your carbs.
What if people are like, I like to mix my food?
Right.
Is that
And
okay?
that's okay.
like a
And that's
bowl.
okay. That's
Okay.
only when you have like the ideal situation that you can
Yeah.
split stuff up. That would be the ideal way to eat, just so that blood sugar doesn't spike too far.
Oh, very interesting. Also, like within our daily eating, is there certain times that you should, we always get into this, like, and I'm kind of going off track here, but we get into this no carbs at night or whatever.
After
like
8 p.m.
after 8 p.m., you will be fat in your sweatpants if you were eating carbs.
Turns to fat immediately.
Can you like talk about that a little bit, about like what it looks like big picture, and then really kind of that late at night type of thing? Can you answer those for us?
Absolutely. So your body is extremely smart. If you don't know that already, there's that information. It's extremely smart and knows what to do. So what happens with carbs is when you eat a certain amount, your body uses what it needs for the energy. All the excess will turn into fat. So that's how carbs work. So when you're talking about, 8 p.m., you want to have that tub of ice cream or the potato chips, your body's going to use it to a certain extent, and then the rest will get stored as fat. That's just how the body works. So if you do want to reach for that snack after dinner, can you make a healthier decision? Can you add some protein with it? Can you add some fat with that snack so that you can have sustainable energy and not just crash? And also overnight, your metabolism slows, so that's something else. But it's just not the ideal time to have a really carb-heavy snack. So it's just how can you make it a little bit smarter? Can you go on a walk after eating that snack? And things like that.
So is it carbs specifically that will get stored, or are we talking about if you just have an excess of calories at night?
It depends. That's a very great answer because it depends what type of macronutrient you're having. But it tends to be, yes, if you have more carb heavy after dinner or dinner itself being carb heavy, it will end up being stored as fat.
And is that speaking to the carbs that you mentioned from processed foods or the ones that we need?
So
both?
processed foods in general are something that we kind of want to lean away from. We always want to go the more natural route, at least I do. And that's my piece of advice for everyone. So processed foods, it's just harder for your body to assimilate. There's actually some processed foods that you can't even process. So that's even crazier. But yeah. going
I
off
think
track a little bit.
it's also too is like, but don't think because she's saying like at 8 o'clock, some people in today's world, especially like our culture, they're not eating dinner till 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But say your dinner is like after your workout, you're going to need those carbs.
Exactly.
But what she is saying is like, if you've already had dinner, let's say, and it's 11 o'clock and you're watching a show and you're like, thank God the kids are finally down. Like, I just need a minute. I just need a minute. And I'm going to have whatever. It may be like something real, potato chips or something like that. I love chips, by the way. I don't keep them in my house. I can't. Then that may not be the best option. But if you're a person that like is a late night snacker, like think smarter there. You know, for me, I eat dinner kind of late, but I'm also not worried about eating dinner after 6 o'clock because my workout is at like 6 basically. So it's like, it's a post-workout meal for me. So it actually needs to be more carb heavy. So I think it's situational too.
Definitely.
And I think like, take that away from what Angie said. Like it's definitely situational in where you eat them. But if it's excess, it's going to be stored.
Exactly. I think everything with nutrition can be considered gray. You know, everyone's different. Every body is different. Everyone assimilates different things in different ways. So when we're talking about these topics, take it with a grain of salt because it applies differently to everyone.
100%. So we mentioned this in the intro, like carbs are more debatable than any other macronutrient. Like you don't hear people talk about protein and be like, about to cut protein out.
Yeah.
Like, that just doesn't happen, right? But carbs gets hit so heavy.
Big time.
And can you talk about why do you feel like carbs are talked about so negatively when referencing diets?
Absolutely. I think that fad diets have a lot to play in that. So over the years, we've already seen the Atkins diet, the keto diet. There's so many different diets that cut out carbs, and it's all for, in quotation marks, weight loss. So on the other end of that, I feel like we're all kind of scared of carbs because of weight gain. Again, it's just how to eat them smarter, and things like that. Fad diets have just played a huge role on that, especially with it just being popular, people picking up
you
on it.
get celebrities that get paid to market that too, right?
100%.
So.
That's diet culture.
And it's gonna be a fast weight loss. Like it is. If you completely cut out any macronutrient, even if you cut out fats completely, like that's literally cutting out an entire food group. It's gonna be a quick loss.
You're cutting calories essentially. If you obviously
That's
reduce
the
your
weight
calories,
loss. It's not because you cut the carbs. It's because you cut, like, big picture, you cut calories. That's why you lost weight.
Exactly.
But I think also people choose carbs a lot of times because they know they need protein for like recovery and muscle gain, but that's really carbs, y'all. But also if they reduce fats too much, like that will have significant visual impacts with like hormonal things, skin, hair will start to have a drastic impact. Carbs, they can get away with it for a little longer, but they'll feel like absolute shit.
Yeah.
Like,
There's like that initial,
terrible.
that initial like, oh, I'm losing weight, and you're all excited and stuff. But long term, that's not really,
so
you
tired.
need it. Yeah.
Like 3 weeks in, you are being a Karen to everyone around you. I'm sorry out there for anyone that's named Karen. You've really been through it, but like honestly, you know, like you start to really get moody, irritable, tired. You are hungry.
It is not a long-term solution at all.
No.
And I think there's a time and place for those things, you know, short term, yes, but long term, we always want to think big picture of sustainable. And
I
that's
think
not really
we'll touch on that too, like how to get to that approach. I want to stick to carbs first though, because when we're talking on here, you know, we're talking about carbohydrates, whatever, and a lot of people don't know what carbohydrates consist of. What are the foods that consist mainly of carbohydrates? I think a lot of people just associate bread. That's it.
Bread, potato chips, like fries.
But they think about like the bread you get at Texas Roadhouse. Like,
Oh, don't hate on that.
I never
go there.
I was
Don't
about,
go there.
I was about to give it a real
Those
big
are
shout.
So good.
No, but that's what they think of, right? Like, oh, I can't have the roll sitting in the middle of the table.
You can't.
I think yes, you can.
Don't tell me that.
I think that has to do with like the standard American diet. Honestly, I think that we're all brought up, especially in the U.S., with an idea of what your meal should look like. Unless you actually study, investigate, research, learn, want to know more about health, and that's when you start deviating from that. But going back to your question, Dana, they consist of fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, beans, lentils. And there's also, that's the more natural approach to carbs. There's also the processed parts, which are the French fries, the bread, all of those things. With that being said, within these food groups, there's also simple versus complex, which we can expand on in a little bit. So carbs is a big topic, but we'll break it down little by little. Right now, mainly they consist of fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, beans, and lentils.
So like, you know, I talk about this all the time, even when we're not talking about nutrition, like a balanced approach to everything, which is so difficult to find in anything that you do, like this perfect balance. But if you had to recommend an amount of carbs someone should have per day, I know it's going to vary, but can you talk about the science with like calories per gram?
Yes.
What that looks like, and then what's kind of the recommended amount?
So carbohydrates, they give 4 calories per 1 gram of food. So we won't do math on here because we know how that has gone. We're not doing any math. But in general, you should normally be reaching for 45 to 65% of your calories to be made up of carbs, which means for a 2,000 calorie diet, which is the standard, not for everyone, but the standard, it is around 900 to 1,300 calories a day of carbs. So that's like the balanced approach. Then when we talk about macros, there's other macronutrient distributions and things like that you can start distributing those ranges for more specific training goals and lifestyle goals. But in general, normally around 45 to 65.
Just looking at my MyFitnessPal, it has me at 50% carbs.
I think that's decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it depends, like if you're looking to build some muscle right now, that's a good amount. I mean, oftentimes that's a average baseline. Like mine's going to be around 40.
Because what's your goal, for example?
My goal is like leanness. And like, I'll tell you, I'm not saying this is right either. Like it's been leanness all year round for a long time. And what I've seen over time is like, that's almost hurt me because I haven't went through these stages of like having more carbs, building some muscle, and then maybe reducing them a little bit. It's been too low for too long. So it's like your body's holding on to that, right? Because, I mean, I still eat a good amount of calories, but like I've recently upped my carbs. And that's simply like literally, guys, all I did was I ate like 4 times a day. I don't really prefer to eat any more than that. I just don't. I'd prefer to eat larger meals. And I do have like one snack between lunch and dinner. That's where the 4th one is. And it used to be like just some type of protein. Like all I've done is just added a banana.
Wow.
That's it. And it was like 220
And that was enough to...
It was like 220 calories. I get a pretty decent size banana, and it's going to be like 30 extra grams of carbs. So over time, that adds up.
Yeah.
But it's those like little bitty things. It doesn't have to be like this outlandish type of things. But so your recommendation would be what? Can you say that one more time?
45 to 65%. And you can fall within that based on your protein and your fat. So when you look at overall macronutrient distribution, you can decide a little bit of the range between the 45 and 65.
So we talked about earlier, you touched on it a little bit, like simple versus complex. Like that's going to be a big thing, but I kind of want to go deep into that and explain the difference there, explain when simple may be okay, and talk deeply about that.
All right, let's get into it. So complex carbs versus simple carbs. Complex carbs, we said that carbs in general are sugar molecules. Complex carbs have longer chains of sugar molecules. So think about it. It gives you longer sustained energy. When we're talking about simple carbs, less chains of sugar molecules, it's quick and rapid energy. So different scenarios that you might want a simple versus a complex. If you're about to work out, for example, and it's like an endurance-based workout, what would you think you want, a simple or a complex carb?
How long am I running?
26 minutes.
Endurance for me could be like 5 minutes.
If I'm running endurance, like I want something that's like longer lasting.
Okay. So that would be a complex carb, right? Complex carbs, since they tend to digest a little bit slower, you want them a little bit earlier in your day before the workout, right? So a simple carb, for example, quick energy, you're thinking maybe an hour before your workout, quick energy for that workout. Complex is something you want maybe 2 to 3 hours before. And I'll give you some examples so that you can think about them. So simple carbs, I'm thinking white bread, white pasta, white rice. So those processed ones, right? Those that spike you really fast with the energy. Complex carbs, they include whole wheat bread, the starchy vegetables, the banana that you're talking about, lentils, oats, things on the more natural side of it. So it tends to be that nature provides complex carbs and the processed stuff is the simple carbs. That's how I like to think about it.
So y'all, Pop-Tart is a simple carb.
It is.
You know, there's
Amy.
yeah.
What?
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I have not had a Pop-Tart in quite some years.
I don't think I've ever
can't
tried
say
one.
that.
But I love them. I do love them. But like, just know that when we say processed, like those are the type of things that you're gonna see that have a lot of carbs in them. They're gonna be carb heavy. It's gonna be simple carbs, so it's gonna be a very quick uptake of energy. But then it may leave you feeling so it's like up
and down.
Down.
The same way it goes up, it comes down.
Is
Yeah.
that so? I've seen very high-end athletes eat like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before a workout or something. Is that why they're trying to get that quick hit?
Exactly.
Okay.
So your body, like we said, sugar, that's what it uptakes for the energy. That's exactly why. It's
Yeah.
like a quick little boost.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So question, like if I get like whole wheat crackers, like it's processed because it's a cracker, it's not in nature, but like does the whole wheat make it complex or is it still simple because it's processed?
That's a dynamic answer, but I think it's more on the complex side just because of the way that the grain is actually built.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like that. And to your point, Eric, you will see a lot of high-level athletes. You'll see bodybuilders. You'll see gym junkies, like a lot eat some gummy bears before they lift or eat a Pop-Tart. That's like a popular thing. And like, can you explain the reason? I know it's like a quick uptake, but go a little deeper here on this one.
I mean, I don't want to get too sciencey,
No, you're
but I
good.
think
Take
it is
it there
that it's the
a little
blood
bit.
it's your blood glucose. It's how much sugar is running through your actual blood for the muscles to take up. So your muscles are the main source of energy, or the sugar is the main source of energy for the muscles in that workout. So that's why you want that quick uptake.
It's going to the muscle. So like the muscle, you see like when it's pumped up, like they've done some bicep curls, you start to see the pump, like that is literally in the bloodstream going to the muscle. So it's feeding the muscle. So they want a quick uptick of like an energy source. But let's say your goal is to lose weight. I would not recommend the Pop-Tart.
I don't think
before,
so.
you know what I mean? Like, yes, it is like think bigger picture. Quit thinking about the Pop-Tart. Think about like, what does your day look like? What does your week look like? What does your month looked like of eating? I don't think anyone ever gets there. Like,
But you also have to think about we're going to go back to the
yeah,
Pop-Tart.
okay.
The Pop-Tart has carbs, but it also has a ton
Ton
of
of
added sugar.
Yeah.
So like that's
Where's
where
that
it gets,
going?
Yeah, where's that gets tricky. That's why we're talking about like complex carbs being more of a sustained source, because we're not talking about the Pop-Tart that has 30 extra grams of sugar. First of all, daily recommended sugar is only 25 grams. You
Yeah.
can get that in any food you find at the grocery store. You should have that during your day, and you can have it in one sitting if you're not careful. So it's the added
You can have
sugar
more
with
than
it.
that.
You can
Oh,
have
easy.
way more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this might be too sciencey, I don't know, but so like how far is the difference between just sugar and a simple carb?
Sugar is so much faster. And also the sugar that they're using in foods nowadays, your body can't even assimilate it. So I honestly don't even know the answer of what happens within the body when you're having a gram of added sugar. That's like a name that you can't even pronounce. That's why it's so important to read your ingredients. It's like, if you can't even pronounce it, I highly doubt your body can even recognize it. So that's just an important point to make.
Very. I think it's hard though. Like we've talked about before when we started talking about macronutrients, and you know, this is a wellness podcast, is that how do you in today's society like have a balanced diet when like every
It's really
social event revolves around drinking and eating. Literally, like seriously, everyone. So like, what do you feel like? And we can, I mean, all of us are in the industry or do this somewhat. Like, how do you feel like you approach things like that?
I honestly lean more towards nature. Nature is so smart, and everything that it provides us is what's good for our body. We are nature. How do we not consume nature? So I lean more towards unprocessed. If I'm at the grocery store, for example, I'm walking around the outside the perimeter instead of the aisles. The aisles are all processed. So how can I choose more veggies before I choose the processed stuff? Maybe I'll grab 1 or 2 packages, but in general, it's more nature based. It's plant based. It's more what can I get that's not been put into a package, literally.
Yeah.
I think moderation comes into it a lot. I've been going out so much more, socializing, getting out in
Amy's
the
living her
world,
best life.
and it'll creep up on you.
Oh,
Like
it
if
does.
you're going out every night or you're doing something every single night with like processed foods. I mean, because it is hard to
It's
come
everywhere.
in contact with like salads and vegetables at these like things. So like for example, like it's Louisville Burger Week here in Louisville, and I've been wanting to
I'm going
capitalize on some of
tonight.
these burgers. So like. Last night, I wanted to try this burger. It looked amazing. It had mac and cheese on it, brisket, all that. Didn't want to miss out on it, but my friend and I split it.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
And
That's
yeah,
a good decision.
so I got to taste it. I got the experience.
See, and I'll give you
moderation.
another tip. I'm going to Burger Week tonight. As a nutritionist, what I'm going to do is eat my veggies first. Eat your veggies. It'll coat your stomach. Fiber helps to not uptake the glucose so much. So start with your veggies, then go for your protein, and then eat your carbs.
So
And
are
understand
fries
that
a
that's
potato?
like
Is that a vegetable?
that's a carb.
Fries first. Or?
So like also understand that like that's one night. If you can just do that one night, then what are your other 6 nights looking like? I think you have to look at overall what does your diet
The 80-20
consist of?
rule.
Exactly.
80-20 rule.
And-
you're not going to be, you're not in a hole living
And
by
sometimes
yourself.
you may be 75, but like it depends on your goals. If your goal is weight loss, you may need to be like 92. I don't know why I got these random numbers, but like, you know what I mean? You may not, you may need to
92.5.
buckle down, but if like for a long while now, my personal goal has just been like sustainability as I age. I continue to want my body to look good, but I've noticed things are changing.
Yeah.
But it's not been like any type of weight loss or things like that. So 80-20 has been like perfect for me.
Which I
and
think
some
is-
people would think that's really strict still, but like for me, it's like really laxed.
Which I think is something we can go back to. Like at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned that maybe your carbs have been too low for too long. Especially as women, we go through so many stages and so many cycles in our life that you need to adapt, right? So it's like, how can you understand your own body enough through those stages that you can then adapt your nutrition to help yourself better, you know?
My wife has
Yeah,
been
we do.
dealing with this since having our daughter because her hormones have been all over the place. So she's been trying different things to figure out what works.
Yeah. And it's a hard process, but be patient.
It's like
long
process of elimination there, and that
Yeah.
takes a while.
Yeah.
But once you
patience.
learn, like you can start to, I mean, and right now her hormones are everywhere.
Yeah.
So like that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Hormones, man.
Oh. Eric's like, I don't know what you're
Yeah, I'm
talking
the only guy on
about.
this show, so
All right, so
tough.
I want to get to a fun part of our episode where we talk more about carbs, but we're doing true or false explain. So basically, I ask you a question. It's true or false, and then explain your answers. So are you ready?
Go for it.
All right, number 1, you should cut carbs in your diet to lose weight.
Don't cut them. Just eat them. Just eat them in a better way. So true and false. I don't think you should cut any type of macronutrient out.
Very nice. Number 2, simple carbs are better before a workout.
We touched on this, but it depends what type of workout and what you want out of it. If it's a 30-minute, yes, a simple carb. If it's longer than that, maybe having a complex carb 2 to 3 hours before.
Nice. Number 3, you only need carbs for endurance type of exercises.
Negative, false, no.
Really?
You need carbs for you need carbs for energy in general. So it just depends what type of workout you're talking about. So endurance, maybe the simple carb would be better.
So like for, you know, let's kind of give our listeners a little bit more. If I'm a lifter and I'm lifting weights, I'm coming into the gym and I'm doing, let's say 9 exercises that day, 3 to 4 sets of each exercise. Like what type of pre-meal would you suggest? Like,
it's a longer workout, right? So you're wanting
it's about an hour workout.
Longer sustained energy. You want that complex carb at least 2 to 3 hours before, so you can have that sustained energy. So maybe I was a little bit, I guess my words got jumbled up. The endurance type training, you might want the simple carb. So we're talking about two different things.
So what about if, you're taking a HIIT boot camp class that's 45 minutes long and you're eating like, say, an hour before, say you're working out at like 4:30, you're getting off work, let's say 5, and you had like a small meal, an hour or so before, what would that look like?
I think that your banana with maybe some nut butter would be great.
Okay.
So something like that.
Okay. Very nice. Back to the question. Sorry, I got off topic. Are all carbs created equal?
No, and I think we touched on that with the simple versus complex.
Yes. This is a tricky one here. Carbs are only made up of sugar and turn to fat.
So carbs are sugar, but not all of them turn to fat. So it's what I said. Your body will use up what they need, and then the excess will turn into fat.
Very nice. So let's talk about, like, is there too much or too little carbohydrates? Like, I mean, we talk about like specific proteins, carbs, or fats. Is there too much or too little? And what does that look like on both ends of the spectrum?
All right. So when we're having too much, that's where the weight gain happens, right? So it's not eating them in the right time or the amount. And then too little, we're talking about ketosis. And ketosis, that is a very broad topic. It's a very big topic, but that's the keto diet that we're talking about. And that is when the body, instead of using carbs as the source of energy, it turns to fat. And that's why you see rapid weight loss with that type of diet. So yes, there's a broad spectrum. Too much is weight gain, too little is weight loss.
And too little will make you tired.
Yeah.
Too little will make
run
you a Karen.
down.
It will make you a Karen.
Oh, I do. I get angry. I mean, there's something to that Kit Kat commercial where they're like,
Or
the Snickers. You're not you when
There
you're
is.
hungry.
Like, I'm telling you, and I told
Don't reach
them
for the
this,
Snickers,
like,
but
when I was bodybuilding and we were in like the last month or so, again, guys, this is extreme. This is like you are getting down and down. Like, this is not your everyday walk around, okay? So, like, take that into perspective. When it was like the last month and my carbs were really low, specifically like the last 2 weeks before we increased them, like 2 days before.
How moody were you?
I actually did a really good job with my moods because I had like a self-talk with myself before I even went into this and was like, you are choosing to do this. No one is forcing you to do any of this. So they do not deserve to be treated such a way because you're hungry.
Can that just be like a slogan for everyday life?
So like
Your choice, your problem.
now, again, like I probably was a little bit moody or like short and irritable, but I was prepared to not do that. But I was so tired. Yeah. At the time I was working like a desk job. Oh my God. It took everything I had not to just, it was terrible.
Which is so interesting because you are cutting carbs, but then if you have excess carbs, you get that 2 p.m. crash. So there's such a fine line of how much you should consume throughout your day to find that
Let's
balance.
talk about that because I think it's like, I think you need to find your balance with all your macronutrients fitting together for a more balanced each meal. So where do you feel like, and this is just a guesstimate, this is just your expertise, like where do you feel like most people consume the most carbs? Do you feel like it's in the morning? Do you feel it's at dinner, lunch? When do you feel like that happens?
It's more lunch and dinner, specifically dinner. I feel like I don't know why dinner we think of like pastas and like
usually get bread or chips on the table.
Yeah, you get these sides that sound so good, and then lunch. I feel like everything is quick, right? Lunch is like, oh my gosh, grab and go. What am I gonna get? All the
sandwich, stuff like that.
Fast food, anything like that. That's where people can also mess up. So if you're not planning ahead of time, I think lunch and dinner is where most of the bad choices occur if you're not well planned.
So what would you say to, and I'm going to use like my brother's family as an example. Like they have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. Both are in baseball heavily. So they literally have something like every night. And
Eating out?
yeah, like what do you, even I have trouble, like, I mean, I'm in the industry, so they ask me all the time, and like, even I have trouble, like, oh my God, one parent is here, the other parent's here, then the one parent and the one kid go meet the other, and then they're doing this, that, and that, and it's a school night, and it's 9:00. And I say school night, like it's a work night too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
geez, like they gotta go do some like heavy stuff.
See, but I think that when they go to that fast food place, you still have a choice. You still have a choice to get the vegetable side rather than the potato fries. So like
That's so hard.
everything, I know, I know, and I know that, and it's also crazy that your brain at that point, like you're lacking so much energy because of your lifestyle. You want the carbs, you want all the carbs, right? But you still have choices. And I think that that's how I look at nutrition in general. And specifically in this situation is like everything I'm going to put in my mouth is a choice. So how can I make better ones?
And that's like, you are dead on when you're like, you are so tired by that point.
Anything being shoved in my mouth, I'm like, okay, let's go.
These parents at work, go ahead, Amy.
I was just saying, like, when I've noticed, like, when I am crashing, like, 'cause I eat a lot of carbs. When I crash from the carbs, it makes me want more carbs because I want that quick energy quick. And so, like, I eat the same bad things, and then I crash again, and then it's a cycle
Vicious
until you
cycle.
finally get a good solid meal in.
You're like, eat some
Back on
protein
track.
names.
Yeah. Oh, is that just me?
No, that's not. But it's like, it is like that. You work a full day, and then you're running. And by the time you get something to eat, you're just like, actually, I want the French fries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do not want that because your energy levels are so low. It's like asking for that.
Yeah.
But
Your
I
body's
love
literally asking for the sugar.
asking for that.
Yeah.
But I love what you said about, and it's a harsh reality for some people, is like, it is a choice every time. And it's not an easy one.
It's
That's not
not.
what we're saying.
It's such a complex matter. Like there's so much that goes into the choices we make in general, but I don't
That's
know.
for
I like
another podcast.
I like to, yeah,
No
but I
kidding.
like to think that I have power over what goes into my body. And that's how I like to think of nutrition.
I feel like prepping for the day you know you're probably going to have would help with that,
For sure.
right? Because then it's laid out. You don't want to waste it. So you're going to go to
Like
it,
the
eat
broccoli that's in my fridge right now. I literally thought about it driving here. I'm like, I have not used it.
Well, it's also like making substitutes for your favorite thing. Like, I make these taco bowls, and it's literally like some like Qdoba or whatever. It's rice. It's very lean meat. There's spinach. I do bell peppers and sweet onions and saute them. Put that in there with just some taco sauce. Usually it doesn't have a lot in it actually. And that's it. And it's like, I'm saving a ton of money, and two, a
that's so
ton
delicious
of
too.
calories. And it's so,
Sounds good.
so good.
Yeah.
And it's just a different alternative for some of your favorites that are a little bit healthier.
And you'd be surprised. I think you talked about this on the protein episode. When you track, you notice how much you're actually eating. So first of all, we tend to not eat enough protein, but the carbs, you get a lot of carbs from your vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking of a meal, you're like, oh, I have this bright green here and red pepper and all these things. Those are carbs. So if you're adding the rice to it, you're actually exceeding your carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like track for a day or two, track for 3-4 days, and you'll understand where you're actually getting that resource from.
And like, what's your carb goal per meal? You know, like, I like a really balanced approach. Again, guys, I've been doing this for 17 years. Like, but I really like around 40 grams of carbs per meal. Usually 40 to 50. I feel really good.
And that's really quick. That's a really quick to reach that.
I will tell you that is 120 grams of rice. So think about probably a handful of rice, maybe a handful and a half that's the amount.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, when we do go into the Qdobas, the
You get
Chipotle,
this big
like
old
it's like
boat of rice.
two full, like think about that. It's not bad. I'm not telling you that, but like just understanding a little bit more, or if you're wanting to understand, maybe understand portion sizes.
For sure.
So can we talk about
So
portion
eye-opening.
sizes
When I see
a
a
little
portion,
bit?
it is the most disappointing thing to see a true portion of. Have you ever like opened a bag of chips and put the actual portion in a bowl? It's like 8 chips. Like,
super sad.
It's terrible.
I hate that.
Yes. So can you talk about from like what the size of things are from like I mean, we can go carbs. Like, what's a general rule of thumb?
I think it's less than a handful. It's like less than the palm of your hand. I know that protein is specifically the palm of your hand. Carbs is
Like a tennis ball, I think.
kind of like tennis ball. And then
tennis
veggies
ball.
is 2 hands together. So you want majority of your plate to be the veggies, handful of carbs, and then the protein.
What if people hate vegetables? Because that's the argument, right? Like, how can
Raising
we
my
get it in?
That is a tricky question.
Yeah.
I throw them in a
I've worked-
smoothie and mask it with protein
I hide
powder.
them in smoothies.
I've worked with so many clients that this has been the specific issue, and I treat them as babies. What do you do with babies? You blend them in places. You try to trick babies to eat them. So trick yourself. Exactly like Eric said.
Yeah.
You said you put them in your protein
Yep,
powder.
I put them in smoothies and mask it with the protein flavor, whether it's vanilla,
Do you
chocolate,
like spinach
blueberry.
or kale? Or
Yeah, I do spinach. We've done kale. I've tried arugula. I would not recommend
No.
that.
I've
That
tried it
is
too. It is
spicy green
spicy and it does
nasty.
not mix well with the sweet
Right.
I've
protein.
thrown carrots in there too.
Yeah,
Really?
carrots are good.
Pretty
Those are sweet. Yeah.
Do they have any like can't like the reason
can't
I do
tell.
mine with spinach? The reason I like spinach is one, I'm just trying to get my greens in, and two, I can't taste it a lot.
Yeah.
So like carrots, does it give it any type
don't know.
of?
It reminded me of like the pulp of orange juice. If
Ah.
you've had that, so it kind of has texture, but it's not like you're not just chewing on it the whole time.
I don't know. So I I put in carrots, spinach, and I also have a greens powder. I like a very
Yeah.
concentrated greens powder, and then I don't really taste. I put like 6 different powders in my smoothie.
But I mean-
I hide it all.
That's something I would also recommend is like, obviously supplements are just that. It's to supplement, just to supplement. But if you're not getting enough greens, yeah, a green powder would actually be helpful. So it's just tricking your brain a little bit to get those greens and get those veggies in.
This leads us right into our last question, and we kind of already touched on it. For our sweet treat eaters, any
Can't wait to hear
snacks
this.
you would recommend that aren't super carb heavy, but still give them the satisfaction of something sweet?
Okay. Do you know how easy it is to make chocolate?
I don't, actually.
I've made so many different recipes with just this. You melt coconut oil and you get cacao powder and you have chocolate. So you can dip
Is
strawberries
it like
in
sweet
it.
or is it bitter?
I mean, you can get either unsweetened cacao
Oh, gotcha,
powder or like
gotcha.
sweetened a little bit. I get unsweetened, and then whatever fruit you add to it makes it sweet. My favorite one is a fake Snickers. So you get a date, you put some peanut butter on top of it, and then you put some almonds or some peanuts on top, and you have a fake
Interesting.
Snickers. So that's
Do you
a
put
really
that
good one.
in the freezer? Or
You
no?
can freeze it.
That would be
Okay.
delicious.
You can freeze it.
Wow.
But I've made that chocolate, the coconut oil and the cacao powder, and then you just either you can put like coconut flakes on it, you can put like nuts and seeds on top, and then you put that in the freezer, and you literally made a chocolate bar.
Even if you're somebody that's like quick on the go, we were talking about smoothies, is like adding fruit to your smoothie, like having your spinach or your kale or whatever, then your protein powder. I like chocolate specifically, but then I'll add fruit to it. So I'll add bananas. Usually it's bananas, strawberries. I like mangoes too. And that is something very sweet. It's literally sweet enough that like I don't have a sweet tooth, I'll admit, but if I do crave something sweet, like I'm literally getting greens, protein, and carbs all in one, and a little bit of fats from my almond milk.
I feel like you just
Balance.
have to train your brain. I know it's hard. This is not an easy topic, but train your brain to understand that fruits are sweet. Like they have a bunch of sugar
Right.
in them. Like that is sweet.
There's a coffee drink that I like at one of these coffee shops, and it was like a cherry mocha something. I mean, loaded with sugar. But I made like, it's kind of like a smoothie coffee hybrid, but I'd use like cold brew powder, and then like soy milk, and then a chocolate protein powder, cacao powder, and then cherries, and blend it all up, and it's really good. And then I put ice in it, so it's like a frozen drink, but it's got a ton of it's got protein in
There
it
you
from
go.
different sources. Got my fruit. It's good.
There you go.
For all you sweet eaters out there, you just heard it. I think we're going to sign off on that. So, Angie, thanks for being here today. Hard topic, a debatable topic. I think you helped us all better understand carbohydrates. So thank you for being here. Guys, in 2 weeks, we will drop the final episode of this series where we will be talking about fats and learning all about it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.